Baruch atah asherah anat melecha ha'olam asher kedishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatif latzitzit. Good morning, friends. Good morning, Will. How are you? It's nice to see you right at the top of the stream. And Ghost is here too. Welcome, friends. You know, Lavender, I'm sure he will. I'm quite certain that he will. I am okay, Ambassador of Yah. I'm pretty good today. I've been better, but I've been much worse. And if you had to rank all of the days of my life on a single linear scale, this would be better than more than half of them. Probably. Good morning, Buttflaky. Are you excited to spend 6 hours working with your Chinese pharmacologist friend? Sounded like you are. I mean, it's okay. Jesus will forgive me. It's just true. It's gonna be an adventure. Adventure time. Come on, grab your friends. The Ouroboros. Here it is. Here's the Ouroboros. I feel so good about the decision to put this on my hand. What college did I go to? I will tell you what college I went to if you tell me why you want to know. So, we are going to say some old words today. Jesus is a stand for forgiveness. I mean, I question the entire concept of sin, right? Like, as if there's some sort of, like, cosmic law book that you either will or won't be in accordance with. Yes, this particular image comes from the Chrysopoeia of Cleopatra. Cleopatra was a 2nd or 3rd century alchemist from Alexandria. Yeah, she's one of the earliest documented alchemists we have from that tradition. I think that the symbolism of the Ouroboros is very vivid. It lives in my mind quite strongly. I've had many dreams about Ouroboroses. Well, I did not go to UVM. It's deeper than that. What's deeper than that? Yes, this is not the oldest. This is not the oldest Ouroboros in existence, right? This is 1,800 years old, give or take, right? The earliest Ouroboros that I'm aware of comes from a palette from pre-dynastic Egypt. So we're talking like 5,000 years ago. I do have some friends that went to UVM. Yeah, and like I'm sure the Ouroboros as an icon in mythology, like a teacher you have an unprofessional infatuation with. What would a professional infatuation look like? That's my question. I'm sure there were Ouroboroses that showed up in mythology, like many years before there was written records. I didn't know about portals and CERN. That's a little too woo for me. But the mimetic history of this image is old. It's true. I missed some of your comments. Do I like to get spanked? Oh gosh. Sin. I'm skeptical of sin. I just have skepticism. I have skepticism of sin. I have skepticism of demons. I think they're social constructs. As long as your infatuation remains professional, it is completely acceptable. This is fun. But Flakes, you forgot to put the little periods. That's important. I have nipples. Did you know? So, let's say some old words. Yes, they're very important dots. What are my readings? So we're going to start with some phrases from the book of Deuteronomy. Thank you, Ghost. Called the Shema. So the word Shema means listen, and this is like the genome of Judaism, right? It says, hey, listen, God is one, and you know what you should do with that insight? You should just repeat it over and over and over again. So we're going to say these words, because the words say the words, so we say the words. And then we'll read from some Epic of Gilgamesh, right, which is a much older set of words. And this set of words doesn't necessarily require that we repeat them, but it's still good to repeat them. And then we'll say Arati, and then we'll say Kaddish to conclude. The Good Book. You know, I don't actually read anything from the New Testament. I probably should, but I'm not familiar with the New Testament. I have to get through the Old Testament. I got stuck in the book of Jeremiah. I've been reading it in chronological order, and the book of Jeremiah is just so sad, so genocide-y, and I just couldn't get, and repetitive. That's the thing. So I have not yet. I've tried 3 times now to get through the entire book of Jeremiah, and each time I have failed. So I should probably just skip it and move on, because I know what's in it now, right? Some metaphors about vines and pruning, and, you know, you deserved this because you were bad. You were sinning. You were worshiping idols. And here I am over here worshiping idols and repeating the names of foreign gods. But what you gonna do? You can't help it. It's the only way I know how. Anyhow, let's say the Shema. It goes like this. Shema HaYisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. Vahafta et anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר נוחים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאהוד על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתהם על מזוזות ביתך ובהישארך וחיה כי יביאך אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילאת וברות הצבים אשר לא הצעת וכרמים וזיתים אשר לא נתת והלכת ושבת. הישמר לך פן תשכח את יהוה אשר תישך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. When Yahweh Eloheinu brings you into land that he swore to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to assign to you, great and flourishing cities that you did not build, houses full of all good things that you did not fill, hewn cisterns that you did not hew, vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and you eat your fill, take heed that you do not forget Yahweh, who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. Don't forget you live on stolen land. Hi, Batya. It's nice to see you again. No, I'm not mocking religion. I'm trying to be in right relationship with it. So, where were we? Explain that, Will. The stolen land thing is why you can't get behind the sin equals bad for the herd. Because stealing this land was good for the white herd. Yeah. But you still think it was a sin. Interesting, right? Well, it's where you draw the boundary lines of herd, right? Like, who gets to be in the group and who gets to be out the group. Stealing the land is only bad if you incorporate the humanity of the people it was stolen from into your moral sensibilities. A person praying with other people. Yeah. Just saying old words. Right now we're going to read from the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I want to reread a section. The section where Gilgamesh's dream comes true. And he's about to do a sex ritual in the ziggurat of Uruk, and then his dream comes true. I was just praying in Hebrew. Yup, that. But now we're going to read in English, but this text was originally composed in Sumerian about 4,000 years ago. 4,000 years ago! Can you imagine that? What was like 4,000 years ago? Well, we can try to find out a little bit. As foretold in Gilgamesh's dream, a crowd gathers around Enkidu as he enters Uruk. He has arrived in time for a wedding ceremony, but this may have been the yearly religious ritual when the king joined with a representative of a goddess, that's Shamhat, to ensure universal fertility and engender a royal heir. So not, in fact, an abuse of power described by the man with the tray above. Right, so in the last section we wrote, Gilgamesh's manliness, his lording over the peoples, was described. When Enkidu was seating before her, each was drawn by love to the other. Enkidu forgot the step where he was born. For 6 days and 7 nights, Enkidu was aroused and flowed into Shamhat. And the harlot said to him, "You're handsome, Enkidu. You're become like a god. Let's go to Uruk." Right? And he becomes a shepherd, right? And we continue on. So he was making love with Shamhat. He lifted his eyes and he saw a man. They're just in the middle of having sex and this guy shows up. And he's like, "Hey, what do you want?" And the guy's like, "Listen, there's terrible things happening in Uruk. Just terrible, terrible things." The harlot summoned the man and he came over, and Enkidu said to him, "Fellow, why are you rushing? What is your burdensome errand?" And the man made ready to speak and said to Enkidu, "They have invited me to a wedding. Is it not the people's custom to get married? I have heaped high on the festival tray the fancy dishes for the wedding. People's loins are open for the taking." Yes, I'm not actually sure that this was real anywhere, right? Like, maybe it was real in ancient Sumer, but like it's probably more likely like a coded, distant memory of some kind of sexual abuse that happened somewhere. Right? Like, I have no doubts that there were kings. There are kings today, just as there were kings back then, that used their position of authority to gain access to sexual experiences that they would otherwise not have access to. Right? That's a kind way of saying it. Right? They use their authority to assault people. Would be maybe more accurate. Happens today. There's no reason to think that it didn't happen then. Whether it was socially sanctioned is another question. Right? Like, this text seems to imply that it was not a good thing. Like, this man is horrified. Right? The people's loins are open for the taking. For Gilgamesh, the king of ramparted Uruk, the people's loins are open for the taking. He mates with the lawful wife. He first, the groom after. By divine decree pronounced, from the cutting of his umbilical cord, she is his due. At the man's account, his face went pale. Yes, you should be skeptical of any claims. But, right, like, we can read this as fiction. We can be like, oh, Gilgamesh was really manly. And not only was he really manly, but he didn't know how to control himself. And he was making people upset. Right? Like, from a character perspective, we're like, oh, this guy's abusive. This guy's abusive. And so because he's abusive, he needs to have a strong friend who can stand up to him. And that's where we get the next part. When Enkidu entered the street of ramparted Uruk, a multitude crowded around him. He stood there, the street of ramparted Uruk, with the people crowding around him, and they said to him, yes, it's slander against Gilgamesh. And then the second part of the story, that's what the translator said, is that maybe this wasn't sexual assault. Maybe it was some sort of sexy ritual about regaining fertility. And we'll read that description in a moment. The people said, he's like Gilgamesh in build. Though shorter in stature, he's stronger in frame. This man, where he was born, ate the springtime grass. He must have nursed the milk of wild beasts. The whole of Uruk was standing beside him, and the people formed a crowd around him, Enkidu, a throng jostling towards him. Young men were mobbed around him, infantile, they groveled before him. It's like Gilgamesh's dream. In Uruk, at this time, the sacrifices were underway. The young men were celebrating. The hero stood ready for the upright man. For Gilgamesh, as for a god, the partner was ready. For the goddess of lovemaking, a bed was made. Gilgamesh was to join with the girl that night. Right. So the goddess of lovemaking is Inanna. Right. Shamhat is a priestess of Inanna and a prostitute at the same time. Right. So they're referring to some kind of cultural tradition, and I don't know how to apply normativity to it. Right. Like, was it bad? Was it good? Probably both, in equal measure. So next. Enkidu doesn't like what's happening, and he blocks the king's way to the ceremony. They wrestle in the street. You will not deflower those innocent girls. Gilgamesh wins by pinning Enkidu over his shoulders while keeping one foot and the other knee on the ground. He turns away to indicate cessation of the match. Enkidu praises his superiority and royal birth. It was primitive, maybe. That is a word. Primitive, right? Usually I prefer to use the word basal instead of primitive to give it a distinctly phylogenetic read, right? Like that this node here is basal to this node here, right? It comes further down, closer to the trunk of the tree, right? Like primitive implies undeveloped, right? And the truth is that at any point on the tree of life, you have a fully developed living thing, a fully developed living pattern, right? Right, primitive has this like colonial vibe to it, and I try to avoid using that word because I don't want colonial vibes. Was it a basal religious tradition? Almost certainly. Like, are there reasons why people stopped doing things like that? Probably. There are probably good reasons. So, what happens? So they're gonna wrestle. Enkidu approached him. They met in the public street. Enkidu blocked the door to the wedding with his foot. No, you're not going to rape those girls. Not allowing Gilgamesh to answer. They grappled each other, holding fast like wrestlers. They shattered the doorpost. The wall shook. Gilgamesh and Enkidu grappled each other, holding fast like wrestlers. They shattered the doorpost. The wall shook. They grappled each other at the door to the wedding. They fought in the street, the public square. It was Gilgamesh who knelt for the pin, his foot on the ground. His fury abated. He turned away. After he turned away, Enkidu said to Gilgamesh, As one unique did your mother bear you. The wild cow on the ramparts, Ninsun, exalted you above the most valorous of men. Eliel has granted you kingship over the people. Hey, Pamela. I'm glad you're here. So Enkidu submits. He says, you're stronger than me. But notice, Gilgamesh does not go into the wedding. Enkidu succeeded in preventing Gilgamesh from doing the deflowering that he wanted to do. And then we have, they kissed each other and made friends. Right? And now it's the start of a beautiful friendship. As foretold in the dream, Gilgamesh goes off to his mother, Ninsun, perhaps seeking her blessing on his friendship with Enkidu. And here we have Gilgamesh holding a lion. Look at that. It was Gilgamesh who knelt for the pin, his foot on the ground. This seal image shows a triumphant hero immobilizing a lion with what may have been the same gesture described here. He is mighty in the land, strength is his, like the force of heaven. Mighty is his strength. He is tall of stature. The mother of Gilgamesh made ready to speak, said to Gilgamesh, Ninsun, the wild cow, made ready to speak. She said to Gilgamesh, oh, but we don't have much of what she said because 4,000 years of aging has removed the narrative. My son, bitterly, a gap. In a second speech, Gilgamesh describes Enkidu's friendless state. Enkidu has neither father nor mother. His hair was growing freely. He was born on the steppe. No one. Enkidu stood still, listening to what he said. He shuddered and sat down. Tears filled his eyes. He was listless. His strength turned to weakness. They clasped each other. They joined hands like... Gilgamesh made ready to speak, saying to Enkidu, why are your eyes full of tears? Why are you listless, your strength turned to weakness? And Enkidu said to him, to Gilgamesh, cries of sorrow, my friend, have cramped my muscles. Woe has entered my heart. And next, we have something different. Gilgamesh is like, oh, you're so sad? We should go on a hero's journey together. Gilgamesh proposes a quest to kill a monster named Humbaba in order to cut a giant cedar from the forest Humbaba guards. Here's Humbaba. There he is on the cover. Felling evergreen trees on distant mountains was a well-known demonstration of kingly power in early Mesopotamia. Enkidu, horrified, tries vainly to dissuade him. So we'll read about their quest to go fight with Humbaba a little bit later. We'll read about it tomorrow. But today, that's where we're going to pause. I am still on here, Lil Cajun Cafe. I've not gone anywhere. I'm still here. Oh, they're not going to get into the mountain. Sorry, words. They're not going to get in the magic boat until much later. Is this a pro Humbaba reading? I mean, I do wish that 4,000 years ago they didn't cut down the ancient cedars in Lebanon, right? Like, they're going to go to Lebanon and cut down all of the cedars, and like, that strikes me as a bad idea. Right? Like, now that entire region is deforested. Do I know the pro-Humbaba view? Not particularly. Like, I mean, there's lots of, like, monster-slaying myths. This is one of them. And, I think we can read in the role of the monster, the, like, you know, the deviant, the other, right? Like, whatever parts of the social system have been oppressed or ostracized often are described as monsters. That's why Tiamat is so terrible. Right. Humbaba was a defender of nature, and Enkidu regretted killing him. Yeah, there's definitely, like, this, like, wild, domesticated, tension going on here. Because Enkidu was of the wild, yeah. Well, Enkidu also regrets killing him because Enkidu gets killed. Right? I believe that's what happens. Spoiler alert, they're going to go try to kill Humbaba, and then Enkidu sacrifices his life to save Gilgamesh, and then Gilgamesh goes on the rest of the quest to try to get immortality because he becomes afraid of death. Right, so... Yes, Enkidu doesn't like to go on adventures that ends up getting him killed. I don't blame him. Don't blame him. The pro-Humbaba view. Yes, I will join the pro-Humbaba party, and we can elect Humbaba to be our president. So, No fertility ritual. See, that's exactly the thing, Will. Right, like, there's a reason why I focus on those things. Like, I wish, to the bottom of my heart, that there were rituals like that around today. Yes. Enkidu's death scares Gilgamesh so much that he's got PTSD for life. And, like, I mean, maybe do I actually wish there were rituals like that around today? Like, no. If they involve sexual assault, absolutely not. But, like, do I think that sexuality ought to be reincorporated into our religious traditions in a much more explicit way that allows us to understand the urges that drive us and give us meaning in our lives? Yeah, I do. I wish that there were more accessible religions that were explicitly erotic. But in order to find religion that is explicitly erotic, you have to go back 4,000 years. You found me, Dreamants. I'm here for the fertility ritual too, buttflakes. I do like my good nerd flirt. You've been looking for my TikTok for months. Well, you should follow me. And you should also check out the links in my bio, and you can join our Discord server, and we can chat over there, and then you'll never miss me ever again. The rituals of Catholicism is what kept you entwined, but you think it's time to move on? What? Move on to what? What would you like to move on to, Ghost? High church detected. I like that phrase. You've warmed me to it, Will. I appreciate it. So, we're going to say Arati. Word Arati means flame. Here we have our flame. In Sanskrit. And Jai means Jai. So let's say Arati. Something with less abuse among the altar boys. Fair. Fair, Ghost. Arati goes like this. Jaya Jaya Aratiya Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Aratiya Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Aratiya Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Arati Venkanta Ramana Venkanta Ramana Sankata Harana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Arati Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Arati Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Arati Dattatreya Dattatreya Trimutri Avatara Jaya Jaya Arati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sanischaraya Sanischaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Sankarachaya Advaita Guravi Jaya Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Arati Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shriyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Arati Ayapa Samine Ayapa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Arati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Natatra Suyobati Natandrakaratam Nima Vidyobati Kutoyamagni Twamiva Bantaminabandi Sarvam Tasya Basya Samidam Vivanti Om Gange Kayamane Kaiva Govari Saraswati Narmade Srikaveri Namastitam Namo Namaha Twamiva mata chapita twamiva, twamiva bandisha saka twamiva, twamiva vidya dravinam twamiva, twamiva sarvam mama diva diva, kayena vacha manasendriyarva, budyat manava prakrite sabhavad, karomi adyad sakalam parasmahi, Narayana hiti sarmar payami. Sarvadharmam pravichayami mekam sarvadam raja. Aham sva sarvapapayo mokshayami masucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you, to all of you. Leaving the Tiber. What does that phrase mean? That has some historical weight to it, right? The Tiber is the river that goes through Rome. Dreamants. I will be posting TikToks again in a month. I'm teaching a class that starts on May 15th about TikTok making, and so I will be obligated to make films again. I've basically finished up my thesis work. I'm going to meet with my advisor later today. I'm going to drive into school and talk with him. And I should be a doctor in a month, which is wild to think about. Means becoming Catholic. What's the origin of that phrase? Thanks, Ghost. I'm thankful too. For converting to Catholicism. Interesting, because it means entering into Rome. Have a great day. Right, because the Catholic Church is based in Rome. Fair. I'm really excited to be making films again. I'm not quite there yet. I have to get my mind into a different mode, but soon enough I'm gonna start making TikToks again, and it's gonna be really nice. I'm really looking forward to it. So let's conclude. It's time to wrap up and get started with the rest of the day. I have to meet with some therapists and with a contractor and with a thesis advisor. I have a lot of meetings today. So I'm going to get home late. So let's say Kaddish. Say Kaddish to mourn, to grieve, to experience suffering together. It's a prayer for the dead. To the Tiber by way of Canterbury. It's a really pretty phrase. So we say Kaddish to acknowledge those that came before us, and to weave ourselves into a fabric, a fabric of tradition, right? A pattern. I don't know if it's a fabric, right? That's a metaphor. But to weave ourselves into a pattern that contains both them and us, and will continue for long after we are gone. That's why I say these words anyway. For the last 2,500 years, give or take, my ancestors have said these words in response to death, and they sound like this. Yid Gadal, Vid Gadash, Shema Rabba. Biama Divrachirte, Viam Nichmal Chute, Bechayachon, Viamachon of Chayde, Kolbe Israel, Bagala, Visman Kariv Yimru, Amin. Yehe Shema Rabba, Mevarach, Leolam, Ome, Omaya, Yit Barach, Vishtabach, Vit Baar, Vit Ramam, Vit Nase, Vit Hadar, Vit Ale, Vit Alal, Shemeda Kudisha, Berechu, Leila Min Kol Berchata, Vishirata, Tushbechata, Venechemata, Diamiran, Biama, Vimru, Amin. Yehe Shlama Rabba, Amin, Shemaya, Vichaim, Alenu, Viachol, Yisrael, Vimru, Amin. O say Shalom, Bimramav, Huya, Ase Shalom, Alenu, Viachol, Yisrael, Vimru, Amen. Oh, say Shalom b'mamav, Huya, say Shalom aleinu, V'ya lechol Yisrael, V'imru, V'imru, Amen. Thanks. Thanks. So, I will be here tomorrow to say these words once again. And if you would like to talk between then and now, you can check out the link in the Discord, link in the bio to the Discord. Alright, adios. And we can chat more about Tiber by way of Canterbury. It will be a nice time. I appreciate you all so tremendously. Have a great day, Darop. I'll see you tomorrow. And fertility rituals, yes. Let's talk about fertility rituals on Discord. Sounds good. Farewell. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.